Hello, this is Success. How may I help you?
First, I'd like you to introduce yourself, Brett, and what exactly it is that you do, man.
Yeah, so my name's Brett Knutson. I originally started out in sales. I started a direct sales company that failed. That was kind of my first venture into entrepreneurship. After that, I went into consumer software. I started a social network called Hive. I ran that for 6 years. We raised millions of dollars from the co-founder of EA Games, and we had hundreds of thousands of users. After that, I started a marketing agency called Monopolize with the founding team of Shipped, which sold to Target for $550 million, and the founder of Fit Tea and Happy Tea. And then digital accelerator that helps startups raise money, scale, and market called Capital Academy. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Okay, so how exactly did you get to where you are today? Like, what led you along to start this journey and become an entrepreneur?
I just knew a lot about what I didn't want. So for me, I knew that I didn't want the life that my parents had and everybody else around me had. I grew up in a township of 600 people. So I pretty much, all I had around me was farmers and laborers.
Yeah.
And my dad was a cop. My mom was a teacher.
All right.
It's very, lower middle class to middle class life growing up.
Yeah.
And I just knew a lot about what I didn't want. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was until I was an adult, believe it or not, because I was so sheltered from that. And so for me, I just wanted to get paid closer to what I felt like I was worth. And, $8.50 an hour was not exciting to me. So I went into sales, and I loved the fact that I was earning a paycheck and not collecting one. Yeah. And that was kind of my start into personal development and growth. And I took that concept and ended up starting, like I said, that direct sales company with a mentor of mine. And even though it failed, I learned a lot from that. And it was weird because I was still happier. I was happier failing at something that I was interested in than being successful working for somebody else. Yeah. And that kind of led me to starting other companies and, doing everything that I've done to date.
Okay, cool. So what do you think your greatest struggle was getting into your journey and going through this process of going from your first failure of a company to creating multiple successful companies and meeting the people that you have met today?
Like, what do I think the difference was?
Yeah, like what do you think was the hardest part on you of overcoming from having to grow up with your parents with like not knowing what entrepreneurship is and only knowing the 9 to 5 to getting to where you are today and meeting your first mentor and maybe like the struggles that you might have gone through between people not understanding what it is that you wanted to do and how you got to what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I definitely was a black sheep in not just my family, but in my community. Like, entrepreneurship was not something that was supported or understood at all. Coming from rural Midwest, it's not something that's ever talked about or that anybody really makes a living doing. And so that was a big part of it, was just all the social pressure that I faced to go to college and to, get a normal career. And to go against that came with a lot of judgment and a lack of support from my family and friends. On top of that, there was just a lot of financial hardships that come with the early stages of being an entrepreneur. So when I was raising money for Hive, the social network, I moved out to Silicon Valley and I slept on the floor of an illegally modified 1,200 square foot house. And that I shared that house with 20 other people.
Wow.
So if you can imagine a house the size of a 2-bedroom apartment that I was sharing with 20 other people, there was a family of 7 living in one of the bedrooms, and the garage was illegally modified into 2 bedrooms. The family room was modified into a bedroom. So it was literally just a bunch of bedrooms in this shack of a house. And I was sleeping on the floor because I couldn't afford a mattress. So, and I did that for over a year while trying to raise money in Silicon Valley. And there's a lot of things like that that most people don't talk about, like the sacrifices and how hard it is to become successful as an entrepreneur. And I think that that's why a lot of people quit and give up on themselves so early, because they come against all this hardship and they just assume that it's something that they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Realistically, it is. I mean, that's part of being an entrepreneur, is failing a bunch and doing the wrong things and learning from that. But for me, it was definitely, just a lot of that process of learning everything the hard way. And I think that people don't really share that much when they're getting started in entrepreneurship. And that's why people quit so early, because they don't realize that it's just part of the journey.
Okay, so my next question is kind of about mindset, Brett. You talking about going through and people not sharing enough, like how important do you believe mindset is, and how detrimental do you think people need to be in putting themselves in mindset in order to get past these failures and to continue to keep going?
I think that mindset is a required prerequisite to success as an entrepreneur. I don't think that you can become successful at all as an entrepreneur without the right mindset. It all starts with mindset. You're as an entrepreneur, you're entering into something where you're going to have very little support, usually from friends and family. Society as a whole is kind of pushing against you. And so if you don't believe that you can do whatever you're setting out to do, or if you don't believe in the process and the journey, then there's no way that you can succeed. So I think that mindset is absolutely critical. I think that protecting your psychology is kind of the number one role of an entrepreneur, is managing your own psychology.
Okay, could you explain a little bit more for somebody that might not understand exactly what you mean by protecting your own psychology?
Yeah, so just investing into it by reading books that are written by other entrepreneurs, and making sure that you're envisioning on a regular basis the end goal that you have, and doing that in such detail that it feels as though it's happening, because we live in this cycle of belief. So our beliefs create the actions that we take, and our actions create the results that we get, and then the results that we get determine again what our beliefs are. And if you try to start with the belief and you just think, I believe in myself, I believe in myself, I believe in myself, it's very hard to get to the level to where you need to be in order to take the massive amount of action that's required to get really good results. So the best thing to do is to start with the result that you want to get before you have it, and envision it in your head until it's crystal clear. And then when you have that result in your head, as though it's real, right? Because the mind can't differentiate between high detailed thought and reality. So if you're envisioning it as reality, then that will increase your belief to the level that's necessary to actually take the required actions to get that result, instead of starting with belief. Because if you start with belief, it's more likely to turn into a downward spiral. If you start with the result in your mind, it's likely to turn into an upward spiral.
All right, cool. That was a neat way of explaining it. My next question, Brett, is like, what's a do you have a daily routine or habit to help get yourself in the right mindset? Like something that gets you ready up for the morning and prepared for the day, whether that be going through great successes or having to go through hard times and hit some failures?
Yeah, so I do have a daily routine. It's not all in the morning. I admire the people who, get done all the things that they want to do first thing in the morning, and they conquer the day before noon and all of that. And I'm in support of it. The reality is for a lot of people, that's not realistic, or it's for some people, it's impossible. Yeah. And I think that by feeding into that, it really can make people feel defeated from the get-go. It's like, man, I can't read, 3 chapters of a book and go on a run and work out and meditate and do all this stuff in the morning. And here's the reality, right? Like, not everybody's a morning person. Not everybody's lifestyle allows for them to do all that in the morning. I have kids, so my kids are awake at ridiculously early hours in the morning. I don't have that opportunity. So my daily routine comes throughout the day when it's possible for me to do it. But I do have it set in my calendar. So, like, for example, I go to the gym every single day at 3:30. So and it's scheduled in my calendar like an appointment. So just like I'm talking to you on the phone right now and you were in my calendar, so is going to the gym at 3:30. And I will be at the gym at 3:30 every single day. If I'm traveling, that's blocked out. I'm at the gym at 3:30, right? So I put it into my calendar based off when I know I can do it. And I think that's the important thing is, say that you hate waking up in the morning and you cannot get yourself to wake up early in the morning, then trying to get yourself to do something else that's already hard for you to do, that's a habit, trying to do that in the morning when you already hate waking up in the morning, you're asking to fail. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's already hard enough for me to wake up in the morning, so I'm going to try and do this really hard thing and make that a habit and compound that with this really hard thing that's also a habit. Don't do that, right? So for me, going to the gym was not easy for me. And so putting that in the morning, it's like, dude, I'm never going to make it to the gym, right? Because I already didn't want to, it just didn't make sense with my life. So I do it at a time when I know that I'm, one, going to have accountability because my business partner and I work out together because that's a time that works for both of us.
Yeah.
Which, accountability is important for goals and routines. But two, it's at a time that I know works out for me 99% of the time. So I go at 3:30. On top of that, I do read every day. I listen to audiobooks while working out instead of music. And I read physical books as well while traveling because I travel a tremendous amount. So for me, I don't do that as a daily routine, but it's a part of my week every week because I travel every week. And then I review my goals every day at the same time. And then I think of things I'm grateful for, 5 things I'm grateful for every day. So those are things I do. I don't do them all as a morning routine. I don't think that's possible for everybody. And I just think it's important that somebody says that because I almost feel bad for the entrepreneurs and the people that are out there when they're like, man, I can't wake up at 4 a.m. and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, good news. You don't have to because not only me, but a lot of my other very successful friends don't do all this stuff in the morning either.
Yeah.
So the important thing is that you do it, though. You do need to do these things. You do need to read. You do need to spend time in gratitude. You do need to treat your body well and focus on your health and fitness. Like those things are all important, but they don't all need to be done at 4 a.m. necessarily.
True. Speaking about reading, what's your favorite book and what book would you recommend to somebody?
So I was asked this on the last podcast I was on. I think this is really important for me to kind of preface this with something. So first off, I think that we hear the truth too often.
All right.
And it becomes, there's a phrase for it, right? It's a cliche. If it's a cliche, it means it's true and it's just heard often, right?
Yeah.
And, Instagram's an incredible tool, social media in general, but one of the downsides is we hear the truth even more, right? There's all these motivational quotes and stuff. And so we tend to write off things and say, oh, I already know that. I already know that.
Yeah.
And the world doesn't care about what you know. The world cares about what you apply, right? The economy and the market cares about what you apply.
Yeah.
And the biggest gap in the world is the gap between what people know and what they apply. And so if I tell you to read a book and you say, well, I already know all of that, my challenge to everybody is like, well, have you applied it? Because I'll tell you this right now, the book I'm about to recommend to you, I've read every single year, multiple times a year for years. And I still don't apply everything in that book, which is why I keep reading it. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So for me, if I recommend this book to somebody, either they've already read it, or they're gonna read it, and their reaction is typically, "Oh yeah, it's a great book. I already know all of that, though. Like I want to, new information. You don't need new information. You need to do more with the information you already have. Everybody already has enough information to be successful. They just aren't applying the information that they already have because they're continually looking for secrets. There's no secrets, right? We already know if you want to get healthy, you need to eat well and to exercise. There's a million different people trying to sell you different packaged up for versions of that. It's the same thing. Okay. So my book recommendation by far to everybody is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's an amazing book, but if you read it looking for new information, you won't find much. Right?
Yeah.
It's the type of stuff that people say they already know, but they're not applying it, and that's the problem. So if you actually read that book and you apply it to your life, it'll change your life dramatically.
That's actually one of my favorite books. I just started reading recently because I have dyslexia, and so when I was reading in high school, like I would get migraines and I couldn't finish any books. And so I started reading like self-development books, and I could finish the whole book. And so I keep reading, but I read that. That was like the second book that I read, and like it just hit me so hard, and I was like, I need to like try to apply as much of this as possible.
Dude, it's very powerful. Like even the simple concepts in that book, like remembering people's names, is so powerful. I think one of the biggest crutches that we have in today's society is bro. What's up, bro?
Yeah.
Hey, man. It's like, dude, there's so much power behind saying someone's name and how much that means to them, especially with how little we hear it now. And especially when it comes to like, as an example, there's a restaurant that I go to regularly, and I've memorized every single like worker's name. All of them. The managers, the assistant managers, the employees, the laborers, the janitors, everybody.
Okay.
And because of that, that one small thing, like memorizing everybody's name, which, by the way, I don't have a good memory.
Yeah, that's my thing too. That's
and that's what everybody, and everybody's like, oh, I don't have a good enough memory. It's like, no, you don't care enough.
No,
You have a good enough memory for what you care enough about. And so I actually put their names in the notes section of my phone.
Yeah.
And I describe them a little bit so I can get it in my memory because it's important, right? You wouldn't date somebody for 2 years and not know their name. Right? So it's a priority. So I made it a priority to remember all of their names, and I have never paid for a meal there in the past 2 years.
Damn. Wow.
And it's not, I've never asked for free food. They're a show of gratitude to me, and my guests have never had to pay for food either.
Wow.
Because, and what's crazy is they can't figure out why they like me. There's something different about you. The only thing that's different is I just paid attention to their name and, maybe a little bit about their family or whatever as I've gotten to know them.
Yeah, I've noticed using the book, just some people. So I started college last year, and using some of the stuff in the book, people would be like, I don't know what it is. Just you seem a lot nicer. You seem a lot more friendlier. I'm like, I don't know.
Dude, it's crazy. All you need to do is listen to people to be loved.
That was my main takeaway from the book. Next to names and trying to remember them more is the best way to have a conversation is to not talk and just listen. And
dude, it's so funny. So I'll be talking to someone on a plane, right? Who's sitting next to me, and at the end of the plane ride, they'll be like, "You're one of the nicest people I've ever talked to," and I literally said nothing the whole plane ride. They just talked the whole time, and I just acknowledged what they said and repeated it back to them so they knew I was listening and asked them a couple questions. But they know nothing about me. But I'm one of their favorite people because I just let them talk the whole time.
And I think another key thing with that is eye contact, which is another thing that I lacked for a while, especially with my phone. I'll feel my phone vibrate when it was the beginning of me doing that with talking with people, and I would kind of take a second to go to glance down for a second, and I consciously realize, and I'd stop, and I'd just use eye contact more often, and people would, after the conversation, people would be like, I don't know what it is, but you just actually seem like you cared. You actually seem like you listen more than other people. And I was like, this is crazy.
It's the small things that nobody does that make you stand out. And I've always talked about that. It's if this is ordinary, then anything above ordinary is extraordinary. So you only need to be this much above ordinary to be extraordinary and to stand out, right?
Yeah, and it's also so impactful because I've been using Instagram DMs to get a lot of people on my podcast, including you, Brett. And so I'll put people's names in it more as well because a lot of people don't. They just hit people up and hey, can you get me this, or hey, can you do this, or hey, can you do this? And I feel when you put somebody's name in it, they acknowledge it more as well, even if it's in a message. So I've gotten people with over 4 million subscribers and stuff like that to come on my podcast that most people are I don't know how to talk to people, and I'm just trying to build relationships, and using that book just helps me build more relationships with people that are a lot more advanced and higher level than I am.
There you go. So that just solidified it, everybody. Go and read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because clearly it's had a pretty tremendous effect on both Jordan and I's life. So I think most people would agree with that too. I'm sure you'd agree that a lot of people in the entrepreneurial space, that's one of their top recommended books. It might not be their favorite book at the moment or the book that they're reading right now, but it's definitely a book that's had a tremendous impact on most successful people that I've met.
Yes, I would agree. A lot of people tell me Think and Grow Rich too, and they'll list that as first over How to Win Friends and Influence People. But for me, I'd say Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is number one, especially because I just love getting to know people rather than surface level stuff. I like making a deeper connection, so I actually know what's going on in their lives and stuff like that.
Well, and here's your reality, right? If you have the right mindset for success, but you suck at building relationships with people, you're not going to get very far, regardless of how great your mindset is for success.
Yeah.
Relationships are the real currency of the world. People want to work with people they like, especially when they're at the capacity, right, financially, when they're at the capacity to choose who they want to work with. Then they only work with people that they like. And so if they don't like you because you don't understand how to build relationships properly, good luck.
True. Yeah.
Relationships are the world's currency. And I'm telling you right now, I could lose everything that I have and be right back to where I'm at within the matter of a couple months because of the relationships that I have.
Yeah.
And I also think that a lot of people use that as, and I'm sure you've heard this, is all about who you know.
Yes.
People use that as an excuse to get themselves off the hook as though it's not in their control.
Yeah.
I grew up in a township of 600 people. I didn't know any of these people.
Yeah.
But I chose to take it under my own control and get to know the people that I needed to know. And I think that's the biggest thing is a lot of people think that everybody who has connections was born with these, relationships in their lap, and it's just not the case.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly why I'm doing this. Not only to help get to motivate other people, but also build more friendships and connections. So when I do have the money to afford to go to events and do stuff, I can actually go and meet you in person, Brett, and meet other people in person and connect with them and actually build a relationship beyond just a Skype call.
100%. I honestly think having a podcast is one of the biggest and best hacks into relationship building because almost everybody will come on to a podcast just because we all love talking about this stuff. Everybody's got to start somewhere, and true informed Casey Adams style, hustling and starting podcasts is such a brilliant way to get into anybody's inbox. So props to you for that, because you're pretty young, right? You're a teenager still?
Yeah, I'm 18, gonna be 19 in 2 months.
Yeah, so it's one of the most brilliant ways that you can kind of hack the relationship building process. So props to you for that.
And Casey Adams is the exact reason why I did a podcast. My friend does videos. His name's Anthony Wynn, and he used to do videography for Caleb Maddox. And so he he showed me Caleb's videos and Casey's videos, and I was like, this is perfect. I don't have money to go places, and let me see how this works. Mid-January, I might get Grant Cardone on, and I've met Gary not through podcasts, but when he came to his events. So I'm just working on building up my relationships. So when I do have the money and I can actually make a bigger show, I'll have more people that I'll just have relationships with.
No, it's awesome, man. Very cool.
So what would be the number 3 tips you have for somebody in your industry?
In my industry?
Yes.
So my industry, I would consider to be marketing.
Okay.
Top 3 tips is you should have a personal brand, because why would anybody trust you to build their personal brand if you don't have one?
True.
It's just the reality. I mean, I've even come up against that. We build the personal brands of people with over 1 million followers on Instagram.
Okay.
And I have, I don't have 1 million followers on Instagram. So building a personal brand has even more so been a focus of mine for this year. And everybody will see too, focus is like a superpower. And so I've always been very focused. I never have more than 3 plates that I'm spinning at any time, so I don't want to drop them all. And my personal brand has become one of those 3 focuses for this year. So I'm excited to see what that turns out for me, because I'm a big believer in focus, which I guess would be another tip. So focus. There's so many different ways to make money, and there's so many different things you can be good at that I think a lot of people get caught up in shiny ball syndrome.
Yes.
And the people who have learned how to focus in the world of distraction and social media and opportunity, those are the people who are rising up the ranks faster than anybody else. So focus is a superpower. So focus, personal brand, and then piggybacking off of that a little bit, what we've already talked about is relationship building.
Yeah.
I've not spent a single dollar to acquire a client for Monopolize. And it's been because everybody wants to work with people that they like and that they're friends with and that they already know, like, and trust. And so if you already have an incredible network of people that know, like, and trust you, whenever you launch a business, you'll never struggle to find clients. Okay. And so for me, all I needed to do was just make it known to people that I had it, and I've not had to spend a dollar acquiring clients.
Okay, awesome. With personal branding, Brett, what would you, if somebody's like, okay, I've heard do personal branding over and over and over again, but I don't know how to start. What would you recommend them do? How would you recommend them to get started with their personal brand, especially with a lot of people online with the facade of wanting to be the next Ty Lopez with Lamborghinis in their garages. And hey, I love knowledge. Like, don't look at these Lamborghinis or these girls in bikinis or my $1 million mansion that I'm renting for this video because I can't actually afford this, unlike Ty Lopez. What would you recommend those people to get started?
Yeah, I mean, again, relationships and collaboration, right? Like my first 30,000 followers I had were just from me being mentioned in friends of mine's stories. Like, that was it. I worked a lot with influencers for Hive, and so I'd have a lot of people who were tagging me. And so my first several, tens of thousands, it was all just from being in other people's stories and collaborations and mentions. Starting a podcast or a YouTube channel is another fantastic way to get organic growth from the bottom.
Okay.
And then just, the basic stuff, right? Using hashtags, tagging your location, tagging the people that you're with or the people that are in the same industry, whether it's a grid post or a story post if it's on Instagram, because you can reach more people organically that way. And then also, when you have extra money, make sure that you invest intelligently into social growth. We have several clients that pay us monthly to do social growth for them. So we put them in giveaways. We have them on niche specific pages. So we'll have, other pages in the entrepreneur niche that are shouting them out and posting their content. So at that level, at the highest level, all the people that you and I know, the names of, like we'll say the top 100 entrepreneurs in the space, every single one of them is investing into their personal brand and their social growth with actual hard money. So as far as getting started, it's, what I said, like podcasts, the collaborations, YouTube channel, all of that, organic reach with hashtags and tagging location and people. Outside of that, if you have the money, invest the money. We have people who are growing with us from nothing. They started with 300 followers and they just understand the value of personal brand. So.
Okay. Awesome. Brett, what's something that you're working on right now, man? Like something that you're super pumped up and excited for that's coming out soon, or that you've been working on recently that you're just like, I can't wait to show everybody this, or I can't wait to help everybody with this?
Yeah, so I've been writing a book for a really long time, and I have the first draft of that done. And so that's probably 6 months out for release. So I'm excited about that. Outside of that, I really practice what I preach. I'm very focused. So the things that are out that people know me for right now, that's my focus. I do Monopolize, which is the marketing agency, Capital Academy, which is the digital accelerator that helps startups and brands scale. That's what I do.
Awesome. Would you mind giving any more information about the book? Because this sounds really interesting.
So the book incorporates a lot of my story in conjunction with how to build relationships properly.
All right.
And how to build and scale businesses. So that's about all the information I can share right now.
No problem, man. I'm so excited. That sounds awesome, and I can't wait when you release it, you got to tell me.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Brett, what is your number one dream goal, man? Like, before Brett leaves this earth and goes to wherever he believes that he goes, what is his dream? What does he want to accomplish?
I think that's a great question. So I call that my legacy goal, right? So like, what do I want to be remembered for after I leave the earth?
Yes.
And for me, everything that I've been building, everything that I have built in the past, and all the relationships, influence, and resources that I'm building are all to eventually go towards education reform. So I think that we have a very broken system. It's very outdated. It hasn't changed much in several hundred years.
Okay.
And I think that it's really letting down some of the best and brightest kids these days, and it's very much letting down anybody who has an entrepreneurial mind.
Yeah.
And so for me, having a historical impact on reforming the education system is going to require a tremendous amount of resources, more than any one person can ever attain.
Yes.
And a tremendous amount of influence, more than any one person can ever attain. And so my goal is to build a network of relationships in my network that have combined enough resources and enough influence to help make some sort of a dent in the education system for the betterment of future generations.
That's awesome. My second to last question, Brett, is what is your number one piece of advice for somebody? It might be something that you live by daily, or it might be something that you've been living by recently.
My number one piece of advice: learn how to build relationships properly, because relationships are the true currency of business, and learn how to chase happiness, because happiness is the true currency of fulfillment and meaning in life.
Awesome. My last thing, Brett, is shout-outs. Anything that you want people to check out that you have?
You can reach out to me on Instagram if you have any other questions. My Instagram handle is just my last name, Knutson, Knutson. And if you have a brand, or if you want to grow your personal brand, monopolize.com.
Awesome.